Yeah, hello. Ooh, okay. Uh, Chapter 13, I guess. I should be dead, so it shouldn't be too long, because I'm dead, so I don't really know what they're gonna show. Maybe what happens to the Toku afterwards. It's getting lighter, I think. I think it's getting lighter. Yeah, I think it's getting lighter. It's getting darker again. My head was pounding. The sky was bright. It was cold too. It hurt. A sensation I felt led to a new and different one awakening. When I came to, I was lying face first on a dry riverbed. A few bodies hurt a lot. The skin over a bunch of my joints was torn, turned blue and red or oozing blood. I could tell it was my bones that were in pain from the agony I felt whenever I moved. I looked up and saw how high the bridge on which I fell was. I survived that fall? Assuming I dropped from there, it was a miracle I could open my eyes again. Right next to me was a broken, upside-down car seat, which I guess some prankster had brought here. Maybe this thing had been conveniently lying under me, right under me, allowing me to escape instant death. Miraculous. Well, of course I didn't know whether this miracle was fortunate or unfortunate. I failed to die and now I was stuck in this insane world. How long had I been unconscious for? The sun was high in the sky, so it looked like only 1 or 2 hours had passed, but my body's sluggishly didn't make it feel at all like so. Like so short and time had gone by. Mentally, it felt like I'd been asleep here for decades. Ow. Ow. Like, the more, feeling returned to my body, the more the pain flooded in. It hurt so much, it would have been better not to have woken up. I needed to get to a doctor. Yeah, to Coach's clinic. The term Coach's clinic, brought back memories one after another, memories I wish I hadn't recalled. The doctor was no longer on the bridge. She would have returned to Himizawa by now. She would have put on some clothes, go to the clinic, and get a checkup and report on how crazy I had seemed. The police were waiting for me without a doubt. This time, would they find out with a reveal that I'd killed her uncle and arrest me? Or would they just send me to a mental asylum like I thought they might? Still, I didn't care which it was. Please somebody suffer all this pain. You can boil me or cook me after that, whatever you want. I began to walk unsteadily, just limping along. I went downstream and through an animal trail, like path in the woods. I walked haphazardly, searching for a path I knew. Eventually I came across a familiar road, and set off towards the clinic. Not to my house, but to the clinic which had treated me like a lunatic. It was hot and humid. There was no wind and the air was stagnant. For a while now I'd been smelling the terrible stench of burnt eggs, and it made my face crunch up. Burnt eggs? And then at last I noticed something. I couldn't hear any cicadas. The insects are dead? It was the first time I've heard Himizawa be so utterly quiet, so utterly silent. When I thought back, it seemed like birds always chirped in the morning, cicadas always cried loudly in the afternoon, and Higurashi always rose up in the chorus in the evening. Always something to hear. I couldn't hear a single insect. The only thing I could hear was the rustling of the wind, brushing in the treetops. Hmm? The insects are dead and there's burnt eggs. Isn't burnt eggs got to something with like a gas leak or something like that? I never expected this sort of quiet thing before. Even the only sound coming from the trees lacked life somehow. The trees were yellow and many leaves were spread on the ground, despite it being too early for autumn. Even the weeds that had been growing so persistently at the side of the road had yellowed brown and lost their vigor. Yeah, definitely some sort of acid thingy happened here. Not acid thingy, gas leak. Only the sunlight itself was of the June Himizawa I knew. Yes, it seemed like the season had switched all of a sudden. Looking at the fallen leaves and rotting weeds, uh, led me to spot a few insects turned on their backs. They weren't moving. They were corpses. I looked closer to see insect corpses scattered all about, like a child had collected them as samples and then strewed them about. The stench, what was it? It was terrible, like burnt eggs, combined with all the bird corpses and leaves had fallen in the summer. Had someone sprayed, um, herb, herbarics or pesticide around here? Even at school, we apparently fumigate. They call it a pest infestation or something. Once or twice a year. I hadn't run into anyone, but how bright it was outside. It was mid-afternoon, and yet I felt like I was sauntering about at midnight. Well, with this smell, nobody would want to be walking around outside. Just what was this anyway? There was no sound, no noise, not even a breath in Himizawa. Not even a breath. Himizawa was silent. The school would come into view right after turning this corner, and yet I couldn't hear any commotion at all. None of the shouts or grunts that children always made. It was simply quiet. Strange. Just as pretending to ignore the silence had grown intolerable, I saw the school. I finally heard something. It was the sound of a few trucks. Oh, the people are here. Insane. There were a few very tall trucks parked in the school yard idling, and 10 workers in raincoats were unloading things from their trucks. It was hot and humid, even in my casual clothing. You can imagine how unbearable that must have been. And then I remembered, our school had rented for the forestry fields office building, wasn't it? It wasn't strange at all for forest service trucks to be doing such some kind of work in the schoolyard. Besides, what did the forest rangers do anyway? I felt bad for having them work in such heat, and with such a stretch about. They were taking a colorful cargo out of the truck and lining it up in the schoolyard. They were containing fairly large ones inside multicolored patchwork bags. Heavy too. They were being carried in pairs. They lined them up neatly like tuna at a riverside fish market. Several dozen hundred of tuna were completely filling the fairly wide schoolyard up. I forgot my pain for a little, captivated by the big forest ranger job like I've never seen before. As soon as I stood there watching in daze, the people in the raincoats working on the side noticed me. One of them pointed at me and then shouted a few things back and forth. I thought they might be yelling at me for getting in the way, so I decided to leave post in haste. But then 2 trucks drove up behind me. I stepped aside and they entered the schoolyard. Sheets covered their trucks, but I could tell they were completely full. As I passed, there was an awful smell that made me want to choke. It wasn't the same burnt egg smell as before, but it was an even worse one, like rotten crab meat. What on earth was it? I'd been enshrouded in one terrible stench after another all day. Then certain white letters embezzled on the side of the passenger truck caught my eye. Ground Self-Defense Force? What? Self-Defense Force like the army? Why was the army in the schoolyard? Who knows? Hey you! Where did you come from? Suddenly somebody slapped me on the shoulder from behind. I turned around and a Capyard SDF Jeep was parked there. The SDF person had a green raincoat and a gas mask like in the movies, carrying a compressed air cylinder. He didn't look normal. There wasn't an inch of exposed skin anywhere. Where did I? Ow, ow, ow. When I tried to talk, I stretched a wound on my head. It made the SDF people exchange glances. I couldn't see their faces through their masks, but they seemed surprised. Do you live in Himizawa? Can you tell us your name and your address? Well, yeah, I sort of live here. My name is Kichimabara. Oh, and my address? Himizawa Village, Shinobone. Just seeing me tell them my name and address without hesitation, one of the SDF people watching from the radio started talking in the Jeep started talking in the radio. Base, do you read? Base, do you read? We have a 402 survivor discovered. I repeat, we have a 402. We found a survivor. He's in front of the Fire Service Office. This is Base, we copy. Secure the survivor at once. What is his status? Healthy. Wounded all over but not fatally. He can walk on his own. We'll send him to HQ for safety. I was prepared to go along with the police, but the SDF? I couldn't help but think it seemed a little much. They urged me to the back of the Jeep. What's the SDF? Self-Defense Force? And then they told me to put on this gigantic gas mask. I did so, and one of the troops fiddled around with it, strapping it tightly to me. So there was some sort of gas leak, since you're making me wear this. It was heavy, hard to see out of, hot and difficult to breathe. Survivor, so it was like a lot of people dead or something. Just looking at the world through the lenses made it lose its sense of reality. My breathing sounded like some giant monster through the mask. At this point I had no idea what was happening. With much trepidation, I asked the trooper adjusting my mask, excuse me, has something happened? Where were you? what were you doing? Hey, don't answer a question with more questions. I was the one asking you. I fell from a rope bridge back in the mountains. I think I passed out on the riverbed. I don't actually know what day it is. Today is June 22nd, 1983, Wednesday. That surprised me. Tatarigoroshi pushed me off the bridge Tuesday, the 21st. That meant I was asleep on that riverbed for an entire day. Forgive me for asking, but did something happen? Why is the SDF here? Is this a drill? Had my question been that difficult for him? None of the troopers would answer me. The one in the driver's seat talked on his radio, turned on the vehicle. He turned the dial and some broadcast station or another came on. I started to listen to the voice on the radio, an answer I was familiar with. It was conducted at the Prime Minister's office. In regard to questions from the press that the SDF not responding to the disasters promptly was directly related to this unprecedented, unheard of catastrophe, Chief of Cabinet Security Aquino had this to say. And so I believe that once the SDF received the dispatch of order from the prefecture governor, they responded promptly. According to him, the SDF was prompted to respond to the crisis after receiving their orders. He implied that it was prefecture's responsibility for taking too long to comprehend the situation. When did the governor, who responded to the SDF dispatch, actually become aware of the outbreak of such an unprecedented catastrophe? And did he not invite further damage because of the time lost, because he sent a request for disaster relief, in other words, because of the bureaucracy? We are awaiting further investigation into this matter. That was Mr. Okiyada reporting from the Prime Minister's office. At this point, we can take another look at the political response following this disaster. What is a disaster? In the middle of the night, between June 21st and June 22nd, a large-scale disaster broke out in Himizawa village, Cinnabone. The details have not yet been investigated, but there was an eruption of volcanic gas from somewhere in the Himizawa's area. Oh, I have heard that volcanoes do make a rotten egg smell as well. The gas was relatively heavy and it spewed out. It began to flow. It was heavy, then how come I didn't drown on the riverbank? That flow went down along a small stream and headed directly into Himizawa village. After a few hours, it had covered the entire region. It happened in the middle of the night, at 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock a.m., 200 to 400 a.m. Every home and household in the village was afflicted. With most of the residents asleep, it is thought that all died without noticing the crisis. The catastrophe striking in the middle of the night caused its detection to come too late, but there was still one small opportunity to have noticed it. 3 a.m. A news dealer shop in Akinomiya sent a vehicle carrying the morning newspaper to the branch in Himizawa. Usually the shop would be contacted upon its vehicle's arrival, but this morning that didn't happen. The news dealer shop had made repeated calls but got no response. The shopkeeper sent his eldest son to check on things, but they lost contact with him as well. It is extremely regrettable. If they had contacted the police or fire department at this point, it is highly possible the situation would have turned out more positively. At the very least, it's possible that a portion of the village might have been saved from tragic annihilation. 300 a.m. Residents in the area in the same region began constantly calling 199 to report the smell of rotten eggs and dizziness, nausea, and headaches. The fire department received the same reports, all from the same confined region. The speculated truck loaded with chemicals may have gotten into an accident and reported to the local police. 300 a.m. Contact was lost with the patrol car on duty in Himizawa area. After the officer reported the smell of rotten eggs, the local police considered the possibility of a large-scale disaster involving highly lethal gas and reported to the Preference and Preference Police at 7:15 a.m. 800 a.m. The governor was traveling to a nearby Preference for inspection, so in accordance with regulations, the Preference Environmental Disaster Prevention Chief was provisionally escalated to Director General and set up a disaster countermeasure office. However, without contacting the governor, the countermeasure came too late. As has recently been pointed out by citizens groups, he is stripped with army diet members to aspect of the preferences was based solely on good relations, and it's rumored they preoccupied themselves with a drinking party. Sources closer to him claimed the governor had been drinking all night and had gone to sleep in a drunken state, so they couldn't do it because he wasn't there. That seems kind of dumb. Like, isn't like a second in command that could have issued that order? He was completely drunk when the environmental chief phoned him as well, and apparently he could not get him to pay any attention to the matter. And so it took about hour for the governor to sober up and gain an understanding of the situation and gather information. Though not as extreme as the governor's case, the environmentalist chief, who he became director general in the governor's absence, will also be questioned about his negligence. In addition, without any procedures in place on the preferences side that predicted catastrophes this massive, they would always react too late, and that ended up being fatal. 9:12 a.m. On the advice of the preference police, the governor requested a disaster relief mission from the SDF. By the time the chemical defense unit equipped with protective equipment arrived on the scene, 8 hours had already passed since the incident's outbreak. Whatever the case may be, it was unfortunately this happened while everyone was sleeping in the middle of the night. Had the same disaster occurred during the day, it's likely it likely would have been entirely different. Whoa, this is like what Venus said about we should be happy just in case a volcano thingy happens, an eruption happens one day. All households in the Himizawa village region were wiped out. There were over 1,000 victims. The SDF is still confirming the situation on the ground, but their results are predicted to only increase that number. Here with us in the station is Dr. Fujiwa, a professor at university who is well acquainted with volcanic disasters. Doctor, can such a sudden and horrible outburst of poisonous gas actually happen? It isn't at all unusual for this to happen, right around craters at least. Japan is a volcanic nation and so has many active volcanoes. There is always the danger of hazardous gas around any of those craters, and it's generally a rule among mountain climbers not to go near them. Does this mean the rotten egg smell that visited Himizawa village was a normal sort of gas from volcanic craters? Judging by how the smell like rotten eggs, we think it was hydrogen fluoride, a gas seen prominently frequently in accidents compared to other volcanic gases. If it stands, it becomes extremely dangerous. Himizawa village is very far from the craters of any volcanoes. Can hydrogen fluoride be generated even from a place not close to a crater? I don't know the details, I can't say anything concrete, but in other countries there are records of gas eruptions due to magma buildup under hot springs. It's an extreme rare case, but it is possible for such a thing to happen even in a region not near craters. Hot springs, like the only body of water I know is Higurashi swamp. Thank you very much, Doctor. We appear to have an announcement from the Japan Defense Agency. Miss Marikura, are you there? Yes, I'm at the Japan Defense Agency. The agency has just made an announcement regarding the source of Himizawa village gas disaster. An analysis from the Ground Defense Team Forces Department of Chemistry has found that the gas was a mixture of carbon dioxide and hydrogen fluoride. Miss Morikawa, do you think whether the gas is still erupting or spreading everywhere to nearby areas? According to the SDF's 9th Division, who are currently engaged in a rescue operation at Himizawa village, the gas density is steadily decreasing. They've announced that the damage will not be spread. However, it does not change the fact that surrounding areas are still in danger, and that very strict observations must be maintained. That was Morikawa from the Japan Defense Agency. And now we have a report on the status of those who have been made to evacuate the Okinomiya area. Shimoshinozaki Elementary School is one of the evacuated sites, and we currently have a report on scene. Wait, what? Inside the jeep, clamoring and bouncing along before nobody answered my muttered question. An unprecedented catastrophe had destroyed Himizawa in a single night. Where was the Himizawa village anyway? Someplace deep in the mountains, right? Name of places I've heard about on the radio were always like that. They were all places I've never heard of. Must I know the new locations of? Wiped out? What does that mean? Don't they usually say how many people died and how many were injured? And how many were alive? Where did everyone evacuate to? Eventually, we came into view of Chakotay's clinic. For the first time, I saw the flag of Japan hanging on a pole outside. Japan's circular sun hung down as though exhausted. Many SDF tents were set up in the clinic's big parking lot, and many strict security vehicles were parked there as well. When they saw the jeep coming, men in white clothing and gas masks came running out of the clinic, frantic carrying a stretcher. You're going to be alright. How do you feel? Can you walk? Yes, ow, ow, ow. And because of my owls, they forced me to lay down in the stretcher anyway. People who seemed like doctors were looking at me and notifying others of my condition via radio. Multiple wounds, high possibility of fractures and internal damage. Large lacerations in the head. Pupils normal, but even without bleeding from the Buddhas, brain damage is still possible. What's a fundus? I don't know. And then from the clinic's entrance, people lying on stretchers were brought outside to replace me. Judging by their clothing, they were from Himizawa, and that's how I knew they were victims. They brought the stretchers in front of a truck, the two troopers holding shoulders and legs like some kind of baggage, and picked them up and threw them into the truck. What? In the trunk of the truck, people's dead bodies were piled in heaps. They were just like baggage, and that told me they were nothing but shells. At that moment I remembered all those colourful sacks filling the trucks, and them lined up in the schoolyard like a fish market. Hundreds of empty shells. Corpses. 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 You jackasses! Don't just throw the victims in like that. They lived here. The troops carrying the sacks answered me with a humble salute. The world didn't need this insane version of Himizawa. My final wish, again, it was granted. Did I do this? I didn't understand anything anymore. None of it mattered. I wished I cursed and then it happened the next day. But why is it only happening this timeline? Then please someone, tomorrow morning, let me die. That insane night is still going on. Please end it already. What did I do differently? I committed murder this time. Was that it? Hey, he's lost consciousness. Also didn't attack the footsteps this time. Shout his name, quickly. Mabata-kun, can you hear me? If you can hear me, just blink. Mabata-kun, Mabata-kun, Mabata-kun. Suddenly the world didn't matter to me anymore. I wasn't interested in their cries. His breathing stopped. Get his respiratory tract open. Use CPR. Make him live. Damn it, damn it. No more dead people. Nobody deserves to die. Don't kill him. Don't kill him. I could hear the voice of a man crying and screaming in my ears. Nobody deserves to die. Those words came from his heart. They were so commonplace, and they soaked into my heart too. Maybe it was a mistake to take someone's life, even if it was to save Satoko's. If this is the price I had to pay this horrible tragedy, then this was too much, Orishiro-sama. Why did you never punish me? Come to think of it, Satoko did say something. Orishiro-sama's actual curse never goes for the target at first, because everyone they loved before that. Orishiro-sama's curse. It was a convenient excuse I told myself at the very end, that it wasn't my curse that destroyed but Orishiro-sama's. Given that I was on a stretcher, this next bit might have been obvious, but at last of all I realized one thing. Yeah. Today, I had not heard those footsteps following me. Even once. And now I was liberated. As the cries of the Higurashi I couldn't have been hearing filled my mind. Their cheerful ensemble was the only funeral march I had. Ooh. Achievement. Liberation. Escaped at last. June 22nd, 1983, early morning. A widespread disaster occurred in Himizawa village, Shinobon Preference. Oh, it's going on its own. Volcanic gas, carbon dioxide and hydrogen fluoride erupted from Onigaushi Swamp, one of the Himizawa water sources, and spread throughout the village. There was 1,200 victims, 20 have gone missing. The catastrophe was unprecedented, forcing local governments to evacuate approximately 600,000 people. According to later investigations, magma pools and hot springs were uncovered directly under Onigaushi Swamp, and the gas that gushed from it was determined to be the cause of the disaster. In addition, directly after the incident broke out, many came forth claiming this disaster was a curse based on Himizawa village legends, first sparking a wave of chaos. There was apparently local legends of a curse spreading a miasma, destroying the village, and some scholars believe a similar gas disaster may have occurred in the past and reminded part of the legend. More extreme paleologicals suggested this was a extension of that's not what they're called, of the string of street deaths that had been happening in Himizawa in recent years in Himizawa village, stirring interest in theories about this being Orishida-sama's curse. On top of that, several relatives professing to be possessed by Orishida-sama's curse commit suicide in strange ways, and the impact the disaster had on the entire region can no longer be ignored. Wild visions of terrible gas sneaking around in the middle of the night, killing people across the country, causing a steady stream of people complaining of insomnia, difficult breathing, headache, dizziness, etc. Some who identified themselves as being possessed by it began doing odd things. Most of them were definitely attributed by the tabloid press, but afterwards some even began to call the mental illness the Himizawa syndrome. In the Himizawa village region, the object of all kind of rumors and speculations is commonly closed off, and even flying overhead is prohibited. The prohibition was at one point undone as a result of the decrease in the gas density, but that autumn another gas burst was confirmed, leading to the area being cornered off again. Word is that the area is sound asleep. All traces of its former life is nowhere to be seen, I guess. Only one survivor remains, Kichi Mabara, age 1 black, who lived at Himizawa village. At the time of the rescue, he had some trouble breathing due to the fluid buildup in his lungs, but as a result of life-saving procedures, he was kept alive. He is currently in a general hospital somewhere in the reference. The press have been asking him for some time. All interviews had been refused. What did he see in Himizawa? What happened between June 1st and June 22nd in Himizawa village? Today he remains silent and unwilling to speak of it. Great Himizawa disaster. Yeah, oh, okay. Odio Tamitak, real name unknown, probably committed suicide in the village. Mio Takano, strangled to death. The other names I know: Rika Furudu, possibly murdered at the shrine. Ivy committed suicide. Rina Higura died. Mion died. Oreo died. Satoko went missing. Tepi Hojo went missing as well. Why did Satoko go missing? Where did she go? Who are these people? Shion Kinzaki commits suicide at the victim's hospital. Kichimabara attempted suicide. Diagnosed with a severe mental disorder due to the disaster and undergo long-term treatment at the reference facility, has refused all interviews at the media day today. Higurashi when they cry. Serial murder novel number 3. Tatarigoroshi. Scenario, okay. Credits. Scarlet. I still didn't die this time. I'm still alive. So it's good to be positive. Make sure everyone else died, but I did die. I just attempted and failed. Higurashi when they cry. "2003 late summer." What happened in 2003 late summer? An elderly couple living in Osaka Preference discovered a cassette tape while organizing the possessions of their son who had passed away 8 years ago. Their son went missing when his fishing boat capsized in 1995. He was 47 at the time of his death. 8 years later, in 2003, they had begun to organize their son's remains in order to organize their minds and came across the cassette tape in question. From 1975 to 1989, the deceased had experience working as a journalist what is photography um periodical, and this tape is thought to have been created during that time. The label on the tape reads 11/28/1983 Kichimabara. It is thought the tape was recorded during an interview with Kichimabara, the only survivor of the Great Himizawa disaster that occurred in June of 1983, or you did it the same year. As the only person who lived through the disaster on the night of June 21st, shrouded in mystery, many interested parties attempted to question him, but he never once physically spoke to anyone in a public place. Therefore, the tape caused quite a stir, possibly being an extremely high value. It's really hard to talk about stuff when I know I'm being recorded. Please don't worry about it. Here, it won't be a problem if I do this right. After this, the sound quality drastically decreases. Did he cover the recording device with something? Then, let's get started. Here's my first question. Kichi-kun, where were you the night of the Great Dam disaster? I had gone behind the shrine, then took a path through the woods for a while. There's a rope bridge there. A little while before you gained the mountains, I fell from there and lost consciousness. Did this happen during the night of the disaster between the 21st and the 22nd? No, it was the morning of the 21st on Tuesday, which means I woke up the afternoon of the next day. I think I was out for a day and a half. Why on earth were you there? I mean, I'm sure everyone wants to know, but the bridge you fell on the day, a weekday, I might add, was quite far from both your house and the school, wasn't it? Speaking frankly, there are some who say you knew about the great disaster beforehand and fell from the rope bridge as you were trying to flee the village. This isn't a joke. Please don't be so arbitrary about it. I think it's a terrible thing to say too. Please don't be offended. Anyway, about that rope bridge you fell from, it was right here on the map, right? The rope beyond the back of the shrine and through the path into the woods. Probably. I never went there, so I can't say for sure. I guess I just want to know why you were out somewhere you'd never been before on a weekday morning. And then, well, about the riverbed you fell unconscious on, have you heard the rumors about that being impossible? Impossible. That word. Again? 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 For a little while, Kichimabara utters the word impossible several times. Why would it be impossible? You know how the volcanic gas originated in the Higurashi swamp? Some scholars did a pretty delicate simulation and modeling and discovered something very interesting. The volcanic gas was heavier than the air, so it went along the ground, flowing into lower and lower places, kind of like what water does. And with Higurashi swamp as its source, they were able to test how much time it would take for the gas to erupt and spread across the whole village. So, well, that riverbed you're unconscious on, the gas, it would have flowed down there. I don't really understand what you're getting at. In other words, if you really passed out on the riverbed, you would have been in the middle of all the toxic gas that spread everywhere that night. That means there was no chance you could have passed out there. Allow me to be a little bit more frank. I think that maybe you might be telling a lie. During the great disaster, you were hiding in a safe place, keeping an eye out for when the gas got thinner, and then reappeared and were secured by the SDF. How about that? Is that right on the mark? For a short time, the journalist presses a Kichimabara further in a teasing way, but all that can be heard are heavy sighs. Even if that was the case, I wouldn't be surprised at this point. What do you mean you wouldn't be surprised? Is this recording being taken of Kichimabara? Some harbor suspicions. You said it before, didn't you? That was impossible. Impossible things happen to Himizawa all the time. There are people who shouldn't be exist. Dead people end up alive. It's not really that unusual. Neither though I of all people would be asked to prove that I was alive when I was supposed to be dead. The journalist and Kichimabara both laughed for a while. To verify his authenticity, I had others in the Mabara family check the tapes with his voice. However, the sound was not clear and much time had passed, so the relatives checked which couldn't remember what it sounded like. I was unable to gain positive proof it was actually Kichimabara's voice. Alright then, I'll change the subject. What do you think of the debate about whether this disaster was the curse, the 5th year of the serial freak deaths in Himizawa? I don't think it was. I was the curse that year after all. What do you mean? I was just answering the question. Doubts also remain regarding the day 11:28 will win on the tape. Because, well, you probably won't believe me when I tell you this. I was the one who caused it. I was the one who wished for the whole village to die and it happened. One exciting story. Exciting? I suppose you could call it that. Higurashi failed suicide attempt on a certain August day. 2 months after the disaster, he was diagnosed with mental disorder and transported to a treatment facility. I was the one who killed Takano-san, Ushi, and Coach and Ushi too, and at the time I had some kind of divine power. I suppose it was like footsteps. Footsteps? Wait, what was that supposed to mean? Have you never heard footsteps before? Tip tap, click clack, coo 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 coo. The facility never allowed any newspaper coverage. It was extremely unlikely that a tape from the immediate date after August 1983 would have had his voice on it. Today when you're walking around, try stopping suddenly and something interesting will happen. Anyway, if you hear an extra set of footsteps, you know you only stop walking. You better be careful, you know. Yes, I'll be careful. Is what I'm saying really that funny to you? However, the reporter had been criticized for his forceful methods of collecting data while he was active, so there is still a possibility that he broke the facility and forced Kichi Mabata to talk. You've been doing nothing but laughing at my face this whole time. You're just like Coach. You pretend to sympathize with me, to listen to what I have to say, but your eyes are telling me you think I'm a lunatic. That's not true. No, I can tell. Your eyes are the same as Coach's. As it reached Kichi Mabata's voice, the authenticity of this recording is still wrapped in mystery. I never heard the footsteps again after that day, so I don't think I have that terrible power anymore. Perhaps right now I'll wish for you to die. I'll wish for your death for saying all those unpleasant things. Yes, this time, why don't I decide how you die? Kano-san was burned to death, so... Let's go with the opposite, with the water. I hope you drown and die, how's that? 15 years after this tape was created, the reporter, just as Kishi Mabata has predicted, died in an accident out in the sea. If I'm in the top form I was, you would die before tomorrow for sure. Now then, I wonder how many days it will take for you to drown. You better be careful, you know. Don't go getting yourself killed by some stupid curse I put on you, okay? The recording ends in the middle of Kichi Mabata's laughter. And Kichi Mabata, later on the night of 11/30, 1983, 2 days after the interview, he suddenly died from a high fever, cause unknown. Records remain of the strange words he kept giving after pressing the call button the day before he died. An extra set of footsteps. You were being chased by Orishida-sama and you got killed. Oh no. Or maybe Orishida-sama. Well, if they find you in the mental hospital, then it's probably not that other thing I said. By being, like, different realities, and you were hearing the other self from the other reality. But yeah, that was it for this chapter, I guess. A new scenario has been unlocked. Yes. There's a button to continue. Oh, here it is. The Great Himizawa just asked to learn what happened next. Okay, but yeah, that should be it, so bye bye.